Hi, everyone. Welcome from the Center for Hellenic Studies. This is Keith Stone. I'm here joined again by Greg Nagy and by Janet and by Sarah for this week's discussion. Let me read the question first. Has the work of Philostratus done more to familiarize you with the idea of a cult hero or to defamiliarize you?
It's a tricky question because defamiliarized can be good and familiarized can be bad. So it's a question that cuts many ways.
Mm-hmm. I love Philostratus.
Yeah, I do too. And I know from interacting with Sarah and Janet that they really like it too. So I think one of the best things we can do is look at this particular perspective, or look from the angle of Philostratus. And what really gets me is that by the time of Philostratus, the early 3rd century CE, that's pretty late. And for that period, there aren't that many cult heroes left. But the ones that are left are worshipped in a very major way, and certainly Protesilaus is one of them. Trophonius is another, and I'll just leave it with those two. Amazing characters, and they're already very synthetic, aren't they?
What do you mean by synthetic? And then I have another question. But
well, in the sense that almost every characteristic you can think of when you're trying to come to grips with what a cult hero is, seems to be possessed by somebody like Protesilaus. I mean, what doesn't he do?
Okay, I see. So here's my other question. When you say that there aren't many cult heroes left, you mean that they're dying out? Like, that's the first thing that I thought was, oh.
Yes, that the more local ones are dying out. And Pausanias himself makes a big statement about that, is that in his era, okay, now we're in the 2nd century CE, in his era, that there's some that are very important and others are not. And I think that has partly to do with the fact that religion, if I can put it that way, that is to say the interaction of myth and ritual, isn't as local as it used to be, and there's a lot more communication in the reality that is the Roman Empire, where there are no wars anymore between Greek city-states. There's a kind of imposed peace, and a lot of the institutions are just getting to be different. And in our case, I would say we get a more focused picture of what a cult hero really is. People are too busy being self-conscious about how people in the next valley have very different ideas about cult heroes. Things are getting more uniform.
Is that a process maybe that started even back in the Homeric era, because you've talked about how that is pan-Hellenic?
Yes, yes.
And so that experience of connecting, there might have been local traditions, but yes, the heroes that we hear about, maybe as part of listening to the performance, which you said is part of a ritual, the performance of the rhapsodes in a pan-Hellenic setting was part of that process.
I agree. I so agree. And so, well, we just take advantage of the fact that people are less guarded about talking about cult heroes, and certainly that's what we see with Protesilaus. Even the sentimentality. I was very moved by the fact that a lot of our participants were moved by the sentimentality, because I'm always on guard that some people will find the sentimentality too much, but it can be, I think, I don't know, moving even in its intensity.
Yes, because we've talked before about being prepared both mentally and emotionally for something, and so you're engaging not just with the intellect but with that emotional connection.
Mm-hmm. And physical connection, right?
Very physical. I agree with you, Janet. Very physical. And I was so taken with some of the formulations that our participants had. Maybe we could read some of them.
Sure. Do you have one in mind?
Yes, the one where this participant was very moved at how the Achaeans are imagined as trying to make contact with the hero by embracing the tomb.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. It says, and as Jeff Cow shares above the heartbreaking passage regarding the mournful behavior of the Achaeans, throwing themselves so longingly upon the tumulus of Achilles, is incredibly poignant to me too.
Mm-hmm. It's really an evocative.
Yeah.
Because you wonder how it can succeed.
Yes.
Trying, and are they really succeeding? Like, what use is it to throw yourself on top of a tomb?
Yes.
My reading, my feeling
Yeah.
about it.
And of course, that passage to which this respondent refers is also where we have this strange kind of post-heroic perspective of, well, why is it that we men don't wear long hair anymore, as opposed to back when?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I think someone even wrote about that somewhere. But yeah, post-heroic, definitely.
In fact, that's something that I'm so glad that our team is working with more this year. I confess 5 years ago I would never have even thought of using the word post-heroic, but there's a real dividing line, I think, between how people view themselves in a post-heroic age and then how they imagine heroes viewing themselves in a heroic age.
Mm-hmm. And kind of a mix. Sometimes also the heroes view themselves in a post-heroic age, I guess, by way of showing
Yes.
present how to properly view themselves as post-heroic, if that makes sense. It's a little convoluted. But
and don't you find, Janet and Sarah and Keith, that with my question about defamiliarizing, that in a funny way, that's the harder one to deal with, that to see all of this sentimentality, when you compare it with, well, there's sentimentality in the Iliad as well, but it's different. When you compare them, it does seem very different, doesn't it?
So I suppose the sentimentality that's expressed in the Homeric epic,
Yes.
they are longing for someone they have only recently lost, as it were, as if it were in their same time frame.
Yes.
Whereas here, this longing is quite some time later, as you say, and
Yes.
it has become even more ritualized, if you like, but that ritual is based on some of the things that we hear about in the Iliad, for example, cutting the hair or reconnecting with the place of burial or the place where the cult hero is supposedly buried or located.
Yes. You know, I love the way you said that, because it would make more sense to me if I'm just trying to second guess that the farther away the hero is, way, way, way back in the heroic age, in a sense, the more I could imagine people would miss the hero because they miss the heroic age, or they miss the grandeur of the heroic age, or whatever. But the idea that in that Iliad passage that I try to juxtapose, that how weird it is that Protesilaus is missed so terribly by people of his own generation. After all, they have his brother, who probably is just as good. So it's almost like I'm getting defamiliarized from the Iliad, and that helps me understand the Iliad better by creating more of a distance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And seeing that same sort of terminology and expression used specifically in the context of something that very definitely is cult hero.
Yes.
As you say, there are hints in the Iliad and Odyssey, and that helps us to see and understand those hints.
And because it's one thing when we read the Iliad for the first time and Achilles says, "You're going to miss me. You're really going to miss me." And you figure, well, Agamemnon and company will miss him because they need him strategically. They need his might as a warrior. But then suddenly you see the aspect of Achilles as a cult hero, even in the Iliad. So I guess for me, one of the benefits of Philostratus is that it helps me understand the mentality of how people reacted to heroes in the Iliad and the Odyssey. And the Iliad has a harder time saying, "Hi, these are called heroes, and how can we express that these heroes will be missed?" Well, only in contexts where they're missed strategically or whatever. But now we see through Philostratus that there's this myth ritual element to missing the hero, and that the longing has to do somehow with the worship of heroes.
Mm-hmm. There's a double. Philostratus helps us see the double layer of meaning, I guess is how I would want to put it.
Yeah.
In these scenes or various words in Homeric poetry, we talked about Olbios having a double meaning.
Yes.
Yeah, of longing is a double meaning. Is it longing in the present because they miss him as a warrior, or
yes,
a reflection of cult reality? These are things that we have to. I mean, it's a little bit circular, but you have to know what you're looking for in order to find it.
Yes, exactly. And Philostratus helps us learn what to look for, or helps us learn to look for different things that can be hiding under the surface, but that maybe are never spelled out. I mean, there are very, very, very few cases in the Iliad and Odyssey where hero cult is really foregrounded in any kind of way.
Mm-hmm. But it works, like in the other cases where it's not foregrounded.
Yes,
it's not obvious, but it doesn't conflict with anything else.
And for people like Janet and Sarah and you and me, since we're always looking for these giveaway words, we tend to see it sometimes a little bit faster than people who are not used to just looking for what the original Greek is saying. But I think even with the way we've accentuated some of the words, like pothein, for feel a longing for, I must say, when I now look at that protesilaos passage in the Iliad, in Iliad 2, to me now it's so obvious, but it wasn't obvious until I read Philostratus.
Yeah, it was like a revelation when I first saw it that way because of your analysis. I was like, wow, it's subtle. I like that.
Oh yeah, and it's not reading into it at all. It's reading out of a very traditional form of expression, which is what Philostratus is doing. He was a priest, after all. He knows his business, and from everything I can see, it's a very accurate form of language, a very accurate reportage about actual institutions such as hero worship, how people sacrifice to heroes, what worshippers say about heroes. In other words, what stories are told by worshippers as distinct from people like the Phoenician who simply just love the Iliad, love reading it, and then, wow, he comes across somebody who's actually worshiping these people. These heroes.
But I like the way you said people, because they are present.
Yes, they are present, and they're so present, and that's what makes the Phoenician such a a good medium for understanding the hero through cult after having understood the hero already through epic. And the initiation happens in the sacred grounds of a real precinct that venerates a hero, and he's talking to somebody who is the caretaker of the place where the hero is venerated, and to somebody who's actually a worshiper of the hero. And so suddenly, the same person who has a kind of instinct for seeing the spiritual, or what shall we call it, the sacred, that somebody now has a chance to connect with, I don't know how to say it, the real thing, the reality of hero cult, so that the cult hero comes alive, even in the epic.
Mm-hmm. Janet, that reminds me of something you were saying that I thought was interesting.
Yes, one of the participants said being connected to a cult hero is being connected to dead person.
Yes.
And in a way, the heroes are not dead. They are alive, and they are part of our, in that time, their daily lives, right? They come. Yes. Greenery is part of their showing, and they walk, exercise.
Yes, yes.
So they are seen.
Yes, and there's that mystical word. Thank you, Janet, for pointing that out. There's that mystical word where when the Phoenician is still not sure, well, what's going on, and where is that hero? And the worshiper says he lives, Zay. So he's alive. The hero's alive, or it's not just somebody who is dead to us in terms of being a cult hero. The cult hero manifests himself or herself and really comes alive for the worshiper. And he lives. Prothesios lives. Zay, that's the word. You're so right. I'm so glad you stressed that.
Somebody else was saying something about the medium, the dialogue of Philostratus and the poetry of Homer, so to speak.
Yes.
And that would correspond to Homer having his knowledge. Homer as a
yes, I get it. Yes,
tradition. Homeric knowledge comes through the muses, but the knowledge that Philostratus talks about doesn't come through the muses. The knowledge about heroes comes in a different form.
And you know what that makes me think, Keith? It's this wonderful word diagnosis, which is, before it became a medical term, it was a hero term. That is to say, when you prayed to a cult hero and you said, oh, it hurts here or it hurts there, and the cult hero cures you, and you know, there are all these cult hero names having to do with curing, like Jason even. Jason just means he who stands ready to cure, to heal, to make well again. And so if a hero can have a diagnosis of you, that means a hero understands you and your problems as a worshiper who consults the hero. And therefore, the hero is perfectly connected mentally and emotionally to not just the heroic world, but to your world. And so we don't need the muses for understanding that dimension of the hero.
Yeah, that's defamiliarizing in a way to me.
Yes, it is to me too. Yeah. And so in some ways, I'm glad we emphasized both aspects. In some ways, yes, it's familiarizing, because everything that Greg has been saying about, look, pay attention to the fact that these are cult heroes as well as, shall we say, epic heroes or heroes of tragedy. Sure. But the other thing is that in a sense, once you see what a cult hero is, you realize that an epic hero is more than you thought it was. A tragic hero is more than you thought it was. And so we're defamiliarized, how to say it, going backward in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's about time for us to wrap this up, I think. Can I ask for any last words or thoughts? Do that.
Well, you know, I don't want to have the last word. So this is, I hope, next to last word, because I'm very eager to hear what the three of you say. But I'm thinking of something that I think the English literary figure Chesterton once said, that if you look and look and look at something long enough until it looks different, then you've really seen it for the first time. Now, maybe he's not the first person to say it, but I'm pretty sure Chesterton said it sort of that way. And I think that's what we've experienced with our discussion today. But I don't want these words to be the last words. I'd love to hear what you three have to say.
Janet or Sarah, when do you want to go? I've been talking a fair amount.
It feels very much like a very totally immersive experience too, because when you enter the garden and you've got the scent and you've got the sight and you've got the sound, all the senses are involved. So that yes. Connection is not just literally throwing yourself on a tomb and thinking you're embracing. It's bringing everything into play. It's everything about life.
Yes.
It's just so beautiful.
Beautiful. I love the way you said that.
And I was thinking about post-heroic time.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about? We talked about Ainos. Now there's post-Ainos.
Yes.
Yes. I'm curious about that. How that Ainos is described in the post-heroic age.
Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, going to keep coming at us again and again and again. I think you're very much on the mark there. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, great. Thank you all for being here and for the lovely conversation, and see you all next time.
Till the next time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye all.